Hey, Cos Nation, it's your Cos Investor Network here, here at a townhouse on hardwood floor installation day. And it brings up a couple of quick points to consider when doing hardwood floors in any house, but in particular in a townhouse, and in particular if you're doing hardwoods throughout an entire floor of a house. There are a couple of different installation methods that your hardwood installer may choose to use, but the one that these guys are doing here is one that I kind of like, and I think maybe we'll try to implement in most jobs from now on if we can. First thing you want to try to do is lay your hardwoods perpendicular to the floor joists. So this is a townhouse. The floor joists are running left to right instead of front to back, and we can see from the nail pattern in the plywood on the floor that you have joists that run left to right, and then we've got the plywood nailed to those. Our hardwood then runs perpendicular to that to reduce buckling and sagging where they ran in the same line. If you had some sag in these plywood floors, that sag would translate into the hardwood and you'd get saggy floors. So running them perpendicular helps with that. Also, because this is a relatively long room, front to back, running front to back just feels better to me. Kind of accentuates the length and depth of the house, and since townhouses are almost always deeper than they are wide, kind of helps to accentuate your nice long feature. But again, that's kind of personal preference, and a lot of it was dictated by the way that the joists ran anyway, so there wasn't a whole lot to be done about it. But even if you wanted to do it the other way, I kind of prefer townhouses to run front to back with floor. Personal preference. Then as far as the installation goes, oftentimes you will see hardwood, and especially laminate, installed from side to side. So you start at one side of the house and install left to right, right to left, whichever direction they choose to go. What the guys have done here, though, is set kind of a spline in the middle of the room, giving themselves a straight line to start from that they did with a chalk line, and then they're going to lay the floor from center out. So they've started here where this white trim board is, and that's been screwed into the subfloor. And then that's going to give them a dead straight line front to back to start with in the center of the room. They will then install towards the edges, and then that means at the edges, if the room is out of square, and by the way, every room in every house is out of square, it's just a matter of by how much, you'll end up with different sizes of gaps. This is a larger gap here, they'll cut a piece of hardwood to fit in. That smaller gap there at the corner, even if it's not exactly a straight line there, we're going to put shoe mold over top of it anyway. That will be hardly noticeable. Versus if the room was badly out of square and you started over at the far end of this kitchen, say, and ended up over here at the other side of this kind of eat-in family room, any misshapen wall is going to get exacerbated by the time you reach the far side of the room, and you could end up with very out of square cuts in the floor that probably would be noticeable. So starting at the middle, making sure that you've got dead straight boards running front to back in the middle of the house and then working to the sides, I think will give you the most visible boards being the straightest when you walk through their house, and that's really what you want out of hardwood. So after they finish this side, they'll pull up those boards, the ledger board, and then finish working over to the other side of the room. They did the same thing upstairs where we're also running the hardwoods front to back. Not necessarily as important if you have a pretty square room or if you're not doing a whole lot of hardwood all the way through the house kind of front to back, but if you are, I would highly consider asking your floor installer if they could do it this way. Start at the center, set a chalk line, use a laser, do whatever they have to do to get a dead straight line in the very center of the house, and then start setting their boards from there and see if that doesn't reduce kind of odd cuts on the sides or it transitions from powder rooms and stairwells and things like that that you have in a townhouse that kind of accentuate when rooms are out of square. Seems like it's going to be a better install. We'll see when it's done. Check at it again, and we'll see how it goes. But hopefully that gives you something to start with. And if you have any other questions about any of these types of things, give us a call. Check us out on CasaInvestorNetwork.com or hit us up with your questions or comments, and we'd be happy to help you out. That's why we're here. Thank you much. We'll see you next time.